Hi, I'm Jack Baruzzini, and you're listening to The Secret to Stargate, where I talk about the hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Jack.
And Victor Lambs. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Jack.
Today we are discussing the 15th episode of Season 1 of Atlantis. Season 8 is SG1. Before I Sleep. On Elizabeth Weir's birthday, Shepard gives her an earthenware pot that was created by the Athosians. During the team's exploration of Atlantis, they find an ancient woman in stasis. It turns out to be an old version of Dr. Weir from an alternate timeline who has traveled back in time. She reveals that in her timeline, the Atlantis shield failed when the team initially boarded the city, and the city was destroyed. She spent 10,000 years in stasis, rotating out the ZPM modules to extend the lifespan of the shield. After sharing crucial information about the location of more ZPMs, the older Elizabeth Weir passes away, and the younger Weir gets to scatter her own ashes over the city, which was kind of morbid, but there you go. What are your thoughts on this episode, Lisa?
I really liked this one. I mean, Tori Higginson, I thought, did a really good job playing both roles and, going through all of the, the drama and the stages of acting against herself and, oh, this is me, but it's not me. And I really liked the storyline. I thought it's probably a trope in sci-fi, but I really liked it. I liked how they played it. I liked that they all got killed off, but I like that they only had, Weir was the only one that survived. And then they tied it in with scenes from the pilot, from Rising to this episode, and went back. I thought it was very well done.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Victor? Oh, he's asleep.
I liked this episode. No, I did. I like this episode a lot, actually. Like I remember liking it when I first saw it, and then when I watched it again, I kind of remembered the premise, but not kind of how that played out. And I really like the idea that they do a clip show, but it's like an alternate timeline clip show.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was really clever. You see, it's really cool. Like how you get to see them arrive in Atlantis, and you're like, oh no, it's a clip show. But then very quickly things start going wrong that didn't go wrong before, and you're like, wait, am I misremembering things? They do a really good job kind of matching the footage from this episode to the to Rising, and and it's really clever. They do a really good job on the Weir makeup. And they get some gate addresses out of it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It gives us a direction to move forward with. And so I had a hard time telling because of the old makeup, but I guess it was not the same actress who plays Elizabeth Weir in the makeup. It was Holly Dingard.
Yes and no. So
I was kind of confused by that whole thing.
That's her body double when they have to have young Weir and she's holding like old Weir's hands. It's Holly. It's the body double's hand. And when they have, but it was Tori Higginson in the old person makeup.
Okay.
And it took her like 2.5 hours to get into the makeup and then 2.5 hours to get out of the makeup every day. So she had like a 2:30 in the morning call to basically show up and then sit in the makeup chair for 2.5 hours and, do 12 hours of shooting and then have her makeup taken off very carefully.
Okay, that makes more sense because I was wondering why they would go through all the trouble of putting old makeup on a younger actress if they were not going to be using the same actress. Okay, that makes more sense.
And Tori Higginson did fabulous with her voice, making her voice sound. So many actors don't do a great job at that, but she did. I mean, it took me a few minutes. I'm like, it kind of sounds like Weir, doesn't sound like Weir. I kept going back and forth, but she sounded old, which was great.
Yeah, no, definitely liked that. And I like, I think that the highlight of this episode was definitely Rodney's reaction to him dying heroically.
Yeah. Yeah. I died. Yeah.
Saving people.
Yes.
Yeah, because at the beginning we find this old woman in a stasis chamber, and there's a big debate about can they bring her out of stasis? Can they not? Dr. Beckett is against it. Everybody else seems pretty gung ho on defrosting her, no matter what happens to her, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, and of course you get the at this point well-established Stargate trope of what I initially thought was going to be the trope of, even though this person is from 10,000 years ago, they inexplicably can understand what everyone is saying. But the fact that it's Weir kind of circumvents all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they do a DNA test, but it takes a little while to get the results, and we get this kind of labored scene where Carson's like, "Dr. Weir, you have to come down to the med lab right now." And she comes down and he's like, it's she's and then it's like, she knows things. And it's like, well, can you just tell me like what's going on? And no, they have to drag it out, to the buildup that it's Dr. Weir. But it's a really cool idea that, and it plays into a recent episode of SG-1 that we saw too, which is kind of cool as well. So, so it's a cool idea. So already it's a cool premise, time travel, but also kind of like the bootstrap paradox type thing. And then also the way they do it, where, as I mentioned, it looks like a clip show at first, but then very clearly is like flashbacks to an alternate timeline, which I thought was kind of cool. They even get Colonel Sumner in there a little bit without having to pay Robert Patrick again.
Yeah.
Where they recut his footage to
fit in with what they were doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I really liked that I really liked the idea that when they first got to Atlantis, where we watched the pilot, it all seems to go too perfect, right? The shield is failing. What are we going to do? We're all going to die. And then the city rises and they're fine. And so I really liked that that wasn't how it happened the first time. We did that for you. Like, we saved you. And I thought that was a really nice, I don't know how they go back and do that, because you're watching the first pilot and you're like, yeah, I mean, it's the pilot. Everything has to, work out. And then you realize, oh, wait, no, Weir saved them. Or Janice. But basically Weir.
Janice helped her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wooed him to her side.
Yep. And he had very little oversight, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he kept complaining, like, they won't let me build another time machine, but we kind of know he did because we just watched that episode.
Yeah, it's good to be king. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think it's funny that they talk about time travel in this episode, and they're debating whether or not it's just theoretical or if it could actually happen, and is it even possible. And I feel like with the amount of times that SG-1 has dealt with time travel, that should have been declassified, and they should probably, or not declassified, but I would assume the people on the Atlantis expedition would have been read into that.
Right. Well, you would think at least Rodney would have been gone like 1969, baby,
Yeah, it makes you wonder, did they just like bury that whole episode? But didn't they just mention like a young... Oh no, that was in the previous episode, Citizen Joe, where Joe knew about young Hammond and stuff. So he knew about 1969, but apparently the Atlantis expedition doesn't need to know.
I kind of wonder if they were trying to operate Atlantis as, I don't want to say its own show, because it is its own show, but they don't make references.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot to SG-1 and all of the canon. I mean, 8 seasons of the show. They don't really make reference to it besides, I forgot the name of the episode, Home. When they go back, but otherwise you don't really hear about it. So
they reference Back to the Future though.
Yes.
Oh yeah, multiple
twice. Yeah.
Apparently Rodney is not a fan of.
No, which was funny. He's like, don't get me started on that movie, and which is funny. And then and then when he mentions that there is actually a time machine and there's a device that sends him through time, and Shepard's like, oh, like a flux capacitor. Rodney finally just has to say like right,
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I assume people nowadays know that movie, right?
It's a
Younger people,
it's a cultural staple. I would hope so.
I would think so.
Yeah, absolutely. My kids have seen it.
Mine too. Oh,
Yeah.
wait. I say that. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we skipped large chunks of the second movie for our younger kids and stuff, and just went right on to the third one. But
It might be a good idea to just go right on to the third one, to be honest.
yeah. But then you missed the 1980s diner with all the the relevant Reagan references and stuff, and Pepsi and Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Very hip. Although I did quote Blues Brothers at work the other day, and no one had any idea what I was talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was disappointing.
Oh, that is disappointing. Yeah, I told you how before my oldest son started an IT job this summer, the day before he started, I made him watch Office Space. And he didn't really think it was funny. I was like, I know it's a little dated, but you're going to work in IT. You have to see this. And literally his first day on the job, someone was referencing Office Space.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So
It's required.
yeah.
Yeah, that's another movie I quote.
Yeah.
At least weekly. But anyways, back to Stargate.
Yeah. We get to meet Merlin in this episode. We don't know he's Merlin yet. But
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. Moros.
Or not.
No, it's really not, in my opinion. But the leader of the Lantians. And I think it's probably it's explicit for the first time, though it's probably come up that humans are kind of lineage of humans in Stargate times are the second evolution of like humanity. The ancients being the first on Earth, and then they left and went to Pegasus, and now they're coming back to Earth. And in that interim period, somehow humans like re-evolved on Earth somehow.
Convergent evolution, I guess.
Yeah. Or sequential or something. Yeah, it's not really clear. But what I do like about the ancients in this one is that when they're all evacuating, we get to see the ancients, and they all have their little matching backpacks with like the little handles on the back.
Yes.
And they're all like, they look like they're going on a field trip to the science center or something to the Stargate. That's so cute. Those little backpacks.
The same reaction.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
It's like a little prep
got
school.
their little lunch boxes in there that their parents packed, and they're going to Earth. It's just,
They've all got their matching Colt jumpers on, too.
yeah.
Yes.
Don't forget your folder. Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually thinking that those backpacks looked very incongruous with the outfits they were wearing, because they just look like backpacks.
Yeah, they look like off the shelf, like, back to school.
Like, I'm pretty sure they had like the clips that you have.
Yeah. I was waiting for the one ancient that had it just over one shoulder instead of both shoulders, and he was
Just
like
one
the
strap
cool
in it.
ancient. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm the cool ancient. I don't use both straps.
Maybe there's a rule about when egressing through a Stargate, you have to use both straps.
Oh.
Otherwise,
yeah.
the backpack will
Safety.
like start to make you spin, and you'll go out of the vortex or whatever.
Yeah. It's good headcanon right there.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see, like, as old Weir is telling her story, all their different reactions to their own deaths. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
like how Shepard and McKay immediately like start one-upping each other about
Yeah,
their alternate
exactly.
selves dying, like, and ribbing each other about it.
At the
Yeah.
expense of like getting important intel from like old Weir too. Like there's
Yeah.
many points in the episode where even at the end where we'll get to it, but so the old Weir can only say like 4 words before she falls back asleep, and so like they have to say, oh, and then what happened? She's like, I sleep. It is like, okay, well, we'll wait till she wakes back up, and we'll get like the next
Mhm.
like 15 minutes of the story. But then they like pump her full of drugs, and she's a little bit more lucid at that point and can ride around in a wheelchair. But even
Against
at the
Beckett's
end,
wishes.
yes, against Beckett's wishes, he's like, I don't know, she's very old. Like this could kill her. And she's like, well, she's like 110, and she's like 10,000 years old. So
Yeah, and Weir's like, I'm tough. I'm sure this
Yeah.
version of me is a tough old broad too. Like she's fine.
yeah. Plus, there can be only one. But it actually does make you think about like and it's good because it's evocative in that way. It's not like, oh,
Mhm.
old Weir and young Weir are talking. You're actually like, they make it so that you actually think about, like, if I was confronted with like 100-year-old version of myself, would it take me so long to recognize myself, for one thing? Like, or would I know it was me much sooner than Weir actually does? But old Weir really doesn't have any additional memories or experiences aside from, meeting the ancients. That,
Mhm.
it's not like she's lived for 100 years. She's just like lived the same amount of time and has been in stasis,
Mhm.
like swapping the tires every 3,000 years.
I loved the idea. So I don't know how they came up with this, but the idea that so she's been in stasis for 10,000 years, but they made it so she had to age,
Yeah.
which I thought was brilliant, because if you just think about it, like, oh, I just go into, we've done that before. Like Jack's gone into stasis. He doesn't seem to age. And, all these, even Frozen woman up, in Antarctica, she didn't age. So they put Weir into stasis. And you think, oh, okay. But they had her age. And I thought that was brilliant, so that you wouldn't recognize her right away, or, she dies a natural death because she's so old. It just gave an extra layer to the story.
Yeah, the alternative would be to have like a near duplicate of Weir out there somewhere with a storyline that doesn't get resolved by the end of the show, which would just be silly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what they do later on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I did like seeing Zelenka back in the early season 1 episodes there, because we didn't get to see him until a few episodes later. And so it was cool that he was kind of brought in as the guy getting the puddle jumper going.
Mm-hmm. It was also interesting to see like the team put under a catastrophic situation where they were not able to work it out, and they did fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see that often.
No.
Yeah, and it's kind of like scary too, because we've seen what happens. They were able to bring the city to the surface, and they even say at one point, well, why didn't the failsafe kick in? And it's, well, George, you weren't there to make the failsafe, so the failsafe never kicked in. It's like, thanks, Clarence. It's an even older reference for the kids. But yeah, they do explain that there wasn't a failsafe because Janice built it in in the second version of the timeline. But it's basically that the city is sinking, and the force shield is closing down, and everybody's like drowning. You hear the screams as people are drowning. They're like open the doors, like on the Titanic. It's like, no, it's too late. And we finally do get to see, we don't get to see Rodney drown, but we do get to see the gate room filling with water, which is a pretty evocative, if somewhat uncredible image given the CG used there, but it was still cool to see.
Yeah. And then Shepard, he dies off screen. We don't even get to see his
Shepard and
death.
Zelenka too. It's like they get shot down. Their puddle jumper gets shot down by the Wraith, because the puddle jumper has the time machine that Giannis will recreate when he gets to the Milky Way galaxy. It's Good to Be King, and then we'll see it later in Mobius. But yeah, so basically they don't realize it, but they've been sent 10,000 years back into the past, and they're in orbit above Lantia, and the Wraith are attacking them, and they get shot down, and somehow Weir survives despite the fact that they've been shot out of space.
It was funny because I guess I was like, did I miss it? Did I look away and
Nope.
miss that?
She just gets shot down, and then she wakes up in the
that they're
city.
dead. But I did like that Shepard in this version, in this second or original timeline, I guess we're going to call it. You think about it, he doesn't know. They don't know anything about ancient technology and the puddle jumper, how to fly it. I think they call it gate ship, don't they, in this one, which is what
do they
Rodney
really?
wanted to call it.
Okay,
they
that's
called it
funny.
gate
I missed
ship.
that.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because he doesn't realize yet that it just responds to him. And so he's, it's just, I thought they did a good job about giving us that because he hadn't been in it yet. So it's like, okay, let's see what we can do with this.
Yeah, they had to figure everything out again, and it seems like he's kind of catching on to the fact that it's just working for him, but they're in a crisis situation pretty much from the beginning, so they don't even have a chance to stop and figure it out.
Yeah. There's not even enough power left in the ZPMs or the ZPM to turn on the computers and stuff in the control room, which at least they had access to before. But then later we learn that because there's actually 3 ZPMs that are powering the city and keeping it safely submerged, and it was up to Weir to rotate them so that they would not use up power, concurrently but sequentially in order, which is kind of a cool idea. I think they probably could have like programmed that somehow, but
they did.
They had Weir
with a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a dead man switch, only it's like a living Weir switch or something. But
yeah.
Yes.
I like that someone has to stay behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like how they fool Moros. He's like, no, I expressly forbid this. The city has to say, which is like, okay, if you're the ancient or the Wraith are like this unstoppable force, they're your mortal enemy. They basically defeated you. But we're just going to leave our city with all of our technology just several hundred feet below the water's surface. And we're going to assume the Wraith just never develop like submarines, or that their darts can't like fly underwater and find it and like get into it and get all of our like, why wouldn't you just like self-destruct and make it sink,
Yeah.
But I guess that just speaks to the ancients' like arrogance that they would never destroy something that they had worked so hard to make.
We've run into that with every very intelligent species, right?
Yeah.
And it is funny how like nonchalantly dismissive he is of the time travel. He's like, because Janice is talking about this, like he's the system he's made and it's worked, and they brought someone back in time, and he's just like, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
Can't do it again. It's like, I feel like that'd be a pretty big breakthrough, and it gives you a lot of different opportunities for dealing with the Wraith. Like, go back in time 10,000 years before, and
but I used my 10% time, my 10% project, innovation time to create this time machine. It's like, oh, I don't care. 10% time is canceled.
Yeah,
you don't get to use it for that anymore. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, but it was cool to see so many of the ancients kind of in their element. That was kind of neat.
And didn't we have the woman, was it Melia? That she was the woman in the hologram in Rising?
Oh, cool.
I think it was the same actress, so I'm assuming they did that
nice.
on purpose.
I didn't even realize that.
Who did the video? Remember they did the video telling about Atlantis? I think so. I say that. I should look it up. But I'm pretty sure it was the same woman.
That's a good continuity.
Yeah, she was in 2 episodes. Yep, Rising and Before I Sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a really cool story, really cool science fiction, and the way they tell it is very engaging.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was funny that they're all like chilling and relaxing and not with her. When like SG-1 episodes, they have the infirmary and they've got that glass window, and they're always sitting watching the person in the glass window.
They were very nonchalant about it.
They were very nonchalant. They're like, oh, she's awake and she's talking, and they're like, oh, should we go?
Like, because we're meeting right now. This is our meeting.
Right.
Like, yeah, you're right. SG-1 would have been like in the sick bay, in the observation room 24/7. And it's like, oh, it's a very old ancient person. Well, let's just go about our business.
Yeah.
And even when she, she's like, they find in her hand like these 5 gate addresses. And rather than immediately like photocopy them or take a picture of them or enter them into the computer so they don't lose them, Rodney just like shoves it into his pocket for however, like a day or something. and then at the end, old Weir is like, that paper I had. And they're like, those are gate addresses for ZPMs. And they're like, and so they all run together, like Weir, Shepard, and Rodney, like all run together and look at it and jump around and go like, link hands and go, hee, we found the gate addresses. And they completely ignore Weir. And she's just like, I'm dead now. And so it's like, it's like the saddest thing. It's like, okay, that's cool. We'll look at this later. Right now, we're going to like focus on the dying woman that's right here instead of like jumping around like prospectors going gold. it's
And like any more information about the Atlanteans. I mean, there's just so much. You're right. They're very nonchalant about the whole thing. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and Rodney just had the very important gate addresses just kind of crumpled up and shoved in his pocket. Like a 10,000-year-old piece of paper. Like how sturdy is it at this point?
Well, presumably it was in stasis too, so it would only be 100 years old.
Still.
Because our clothes weren't like disintegrated, thankfully.
That's true.
But
I chalk that up to magical Lantean technology, but maybe it's special Lantean paper. So
Lantean polyester.
I'm surprised they had paper, right? They weren't 100% digital or holographic or something. I mean,
they have plastic wrap to put over your computer consoles like you have on your couch when you're getting your house fumigated. So they probably have paper.
Yeah, we know that Weir is the one who actually, because I was wondering like, when we saw Rising, like who put the plastic like couch covers over everything, and it was Weir.
They took the time to do that as they're evacuating from the Wraith.
Yeah, no, Weir had some extra days to kill there, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I did think as she was climbing into the stasis pod, and all that, I'm like, you think, oh, okay, that's creepy.
Yeah, that
city is huge, and you're like, meh, I'll hang out here for 10,000 years by myself and then wake up every however often and like walk around, make some coffee, like, and then climb back in. It's weird.
They should have done like a Home Alone montage with like Weir, like, watching like, keep the change, you filthy animal, and like making popcorn and ordering pizza and doing all that fun stuff and like playing classic rock songs as she dances around. That would have been fun.
That would have been funny.
Get the Wraith to step on some Christmas ornaments.
Yeah.
Think about it. You wake up from stasis, you never know who's there. And you're going to search the whole city? Like, what's going on? I don't know. Maybe I just don't like being home alone.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to be trapped in an alien city underwater by myself, definitely.
Yeah. No.
Maybe she had a copy of BioShock to play.
Yeah. You can play
keep it on theme.
There's always a Weir, there's always a lighthouse. They say. But this episode was written by Carl Binder. This was his first episode of Atlantis. He wrote the Demons episode in SG1 season 3. But I don't think he wrote more episodes, I think, starting in season 10. I think he helped write 200. But he wrote a lot of Atlantis episodes after this, and then a number of Universe episodes. So this is kind of, after Demons, this is kind of the start of his Stargate writing career, and we'll see a lot more from him.
It's cool.
Nice. Well, it was obviously well-liked and well-received if he got to keep writing episodes. And
according to the internet, people on the internet, this episode was very highly rated. Like people overwhelmingly, I mean, one of the highest rated episodes for season 1.
Oh, nice.
So says a lot, especially for it being what we might consider a slower episode. Can we call it that? I mean, there was no Wraith. There was no, like actual Wraith. There was no, not too much shoot 'em up stuff, Yeah,
but it was very, very character focused, and which is always good to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd take that over just mindless action.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down for later.
No, I'll take the mindless action as long as the link is in it. But I did like I wouldn't say necessarily like hard sci-fi, but the sci-fi elements, and they do kind of keep you guessing, what's happening. And of course, I like anytime they can like play on conventions, and the fact that they started off with clips and then went into new footage that looked like the old footage. That's just like right in my wheelhouse there.
Yeah, very well executed.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been a trend with a lot of Atlantis episodes, but I almost feel like the Stargate is very tangential to everything. Like it's hardly ever, like you see it like in the background every so often, but it's not really talked about a lot. It's not used very often. So to me, it almost feels like they want to get away from like being tied to the Stargate as much as possible in Atlantis.
They do a lot more with the Stargate. They're still kind of exploring the city. They're focusing more on the Atlantis part of the title, because that's, the set that they just paid a lot of money for, but also because there's still a lot of mysteries within the city that they're still exploring. And while they always come back to the city and do, stories that are based there, they do get out. They do start to get out a lot more.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, that was not a criticism. It was an observation.
Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't take it that way.
Just wait till you get to Universe.
Yeah.
I've watched a few episodes of Universe, so.
Yeah, and they do kind of come back to this like premise. I think there's an episode, I can't remember what it's called, but it's later on in season 4 or 5 where they do something similar with Shepard, but it's almost like in reverse, if I remember, or slightly different. But they do kind of play back to this episode a little bit later on.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a alternate old Rodney and Zelenka out there somewhere too.
Yeah, I was bummed about Zelenka getting killed off screen, but it was good to see him regardless.
Yeah. Awesome. Did we have any alternate language titles for this episode?
Yes, we did. In French, we had Le Grand Sommeil, which is the Great Sleep. And then in German, we had 10,000 Jahre, which is 10,000 years. So there you go.
Pretty on the nose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's not like Old Weir or Ein
Old
Olden
Weir.
Frau.
Yeah.
It's Old Weir. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty good. A good episode. I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
And then this title was based on the Robert Frost poem. Hey, Robert, and evidently I was not an English lit major. So evidently there is a Stargate SG-1 episode that was also based on Robert Frost. And that was one of the ones that Rodney was in. So
Interesting.
2 Robert Frost titles, both have Rodney.
There you go.
I have no idea why.
Rodney never struck me as a Robert Frost kind of guy, but I'll go with
Me
it.
either. I feel like Shepard would be more that,
Yeah.
like let's question things.
Or Kavanaugh, maybe.
Awesome. Do you have any other thoughts on the episode?
Nope.
No, but I have a quick Stargate story.
Oh, let's hear it.
My youngest, who is off away at college for the first time, and I texted. She was trying to get into one of my streaming accounts, and she just texted me today, and she's like, "I just wanted to watch the Stargate movie." She's like, "That's my go-to when I need to pick me up. That's my go-to comfort movie that I watch." I was like,
that's very
you
sweet.
make your dad and I feel like we did something right in parenting. So that was my Stargate Today story.
Nice. Awesome. Before we go, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secret to Stargate, including Mark M., Daryl O., Nicholas W., Janet K., and Nancy. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secret to Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and you can find the video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. And to find previous episodes of Secret to Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of SG-1, Reckoning Parts 1 and 2. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secret to Stargate.
Thanks, Jack.
And Victor Lambs, thank you too.
Thanks, Jack. And, well, a man wonders how we would choose to go out given such dire circumstances, and now I know.
Definitely a way to go.
Yep.
And once again, I'm Jack Baruzzini. Thank you for listening to The Secret to Stargate on StarQuest.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?